This new EP that you've put out, it feels like lockdown and coronavirus kind of weighs particularly heavy on quite a few of the songs. Was that an experience that made you reconsider what you want to say with your music and what you want to do with your music?
I think it's more that I write how I feel at the time. So it's not like I've renounced everything that I previously wanted to write lyrics about. And I think it's just, see, if you're sat inside for 2 years, you tend to write more about what's in your head than what's in the outside world. And as well, like, you kind of, I don't know, the songs I feel, it's hard to describe it. Some songs feel like songs that are about certain things, and all of these just felt like about, I think we tried a few things with another one before it came to recording this EP, versions of that, like, that tune had been
We're on a journey, that one.
Yeah,
a lot of different things.
It may have been like 2 or 3 different songs put together, but I don't think it's any like statement of we are different now, but what I think is that it's just me writing about what has been happening.
How did you react when he came to the band with the songs that forged the new EP?
That forged the new EP?
Yeah, that came together to be the new EP.
So
yeah, well, I mean...
Two of them were Ableton ones, weren't they? Or one of them was... Vladimir was at main Ableton.
Off at one, yeah.
Off at one was that, but then the rest of them was us in a studio.
Well, Parisian Friends was one that we actually played that live, maybe on the last tour, maybe even before that in 2019, even before that. It was one of those ones that kind of came about live more than anything else, you know. One of those songs that I think, you know, when we recorded it was something we definitely wanted to incorporate, is that this is a live song and this has to sound a certain way. But, you know, Off at One, which was added to the EP last minute, as you say, that was an Ableton demo that came with kind of like, you know, all the stuff that comes with that, and it essentially ended up pretty much the same as well, with like a few little arrangement changes.
The way we work isn't that I'll come with, and this is an EP. What will happen is that I write all the time, we write all the time, so when somebody will go, you need to release an EP in 2 months, and all of the 80 songs that we've been messing about with, we will go, that, and that.
If some kind of football league tournament table-based system of songs versus songs to find the ultimate champion, basically. It's like Takeshi's Castle for tunes, you know what I mean?
If one of the songs gets knocked out, does that necessarily mean it's gone for good, or
no, not necessarily?
I'd like to hope not, but it does seem that it can. Some songs have.
Again, there's just so much material that, like, looking back tends to only happen if you don't have anything that's new, and there's always new stuff. So there'll be, do you know? Sometimes I do that. Like, I'll go into Matt, so like No Fun, for example, or Talking to Myself. I had me and a guitar doing a version of them for a while before I went, here, what about this? So that I'll sometimes do that at 5 in the morning when I can't sleep and go, let's go back to 2016 and see what I was writing then, and it's terrible. Ah, that's okay. And then something will come for that.
Little bits here and there.
Yeah.
And you were saying as well that Parisian Friends came together, you know, we were playing on the last tour and it came together as a group in the studio.
Yeah.
Do you hear a difference in those songs to the ones that you kind of bring to the band a little bit more fully formed?
I think you have an impact on them. Whatever I bring, it always ends up sounding different, because I'm not as good a guitarist as you, I'm not as good a bassist as Ben, and I'm not as good a drummer as Murray. So whatever I'm writing, you always make better. So
yeah, I mean, like, to think about it, I've never really noticed much of a difference in terms of like stuff that's come live, and as you say, it's all quite collaborative, so it's kind of hard to it gets hard to disintegrate. I mean, when you're in that kind of creative flow, you're often just like, you don't remember how you got there, you just come out of it with something.
I think the ones that are a collaborative effort tend to be not always, but more musically interesting, because if you're involved at a more formative stage, then it becomes more about the music as opposed to, see, maybe for like the first EP, that was lyrics with a tune behind them for some of them. But it's more when we go into 7 West with Chris and Jamie, that's when the things sort of take a bigger shape.
Production is always often the fifth member of the group anyway, like it really does give so many different things, you know. Great example of too many cooks not spoiling the broth. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think we more just wanted this EP to sound coherent as 6 tunes. And I think it's got a lot of harmonies, it's got jangly guitars, it's a bit more melodic, so I'm very happy with it.
17-part harmonies, love that.
There is a 9-part harmony in one of the choruses in an Ableton demo.
Yeah.
And I showed it to your sound tech and he went, that's classic, how the fuck do you expect to play that live?
If anyone knows any choirs going about, they need some work. It's been a hard year for everyone.
It's interesting you mentioned that idea of the earlier stuff being maybe a little bit more lyrics with a tune going on behind it. Was there a particular song that you wrote as a group which felt like the moment that you pushed past that and it actually became like a band and it became one?
I think when we were messing about with another one, the ways that went, you add in some sort of spooky synths and it being this thing that I like. I'm a pure chord nerd. Like I'll watch why the changing to a major dominant instead of a minor dominant will change your song in 6 ways. Like
change your life.
I'll watch all of that stuff constantly.
See, that's just like the antithesis of what I mean. That brain doesn't work that way for me. It's all texture and melody, which is a good combination.
But work well together.
Yeah. But I also think so. Like thinking about that, like even looking back to older songs, I remember Useless being one that, like, I think, and great example of the chord thing, like we were just playing random chords in the studio and jamming, and then you just hit this, like, I don't know, some mad, like,
it's a D minor diminished
7,
6, I think,
and it just was like, oh, well, that's the song now. Whatever that built into, like, just came from that kind of just jamming. So.
The way that another one goes from part to part and then ends in this sort of almost completely different bit, that was when I was like very, very proud of us as a band, in terms of, like, I think that sounds, don't get me wrong, people want 3.5-minute pop tunes, so like other ones will always do better than the ones that we're most proud of, because if you're into music, I think you probably care a bit more about textures and chord changes and stuff as opposed to, but I remember hearing that and thinking that's impressive that we've done that.
Is it ever frustrating that the ones that you like the most maybe necessarily don't do as well as some of the other ones?
I've sort of thought to myself, I need to go over myself. Like, I remember
we are entertainers.
I remember being very annoyed that Be Mine didn't do really well. It didn't do really well. People like it, and it was in an album that did well and everything. But like, I was the most excited about that song. But that's because I like a specific kind of music and I play it, so
it's also like, I mean, so there's so many stories from just music history in general where, like, there's a massive song that they were like, oh, it's not a single, and then someone random person's like, that should be the single. And I think it's especially when you're recording and writing, you know, you spend like 6 months to a year, 2 years, even longer with these songs, and they just the impact on you changes to the way that other people hear them. So you completely lose context.
Went through a huge journey with Prezi and Friends. When we first started playing it live, we loved it, and then when it came to recording it, I was almost like, it kind of has to be on because I understand its appeal, but it doesn't do much for me. Then we filmed the video and I was like, oh, I get it again. It's like a fun, silly song. It's not meant to be, it's not like fucking Life on Mars, do you know what I mean? It's like a fun 3-minute pop song.
What tipped it for me was the Ben in that video, everything about Ben and you tanning the wine. And all that together.
So funny in that video. I like that a lot. Yeah.
So the humour was recontextualising, as the pretentious people say.
Again, I feel the impulse, but I'm at least self-aware enough to go, imagine being fucking annoyed that people like one of your songs and not the other a bit more. Like, that's so stupid.
I really like. No count for taste.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much for your time.